My name is Ari Halttunen. I work as a project manager at the Baltic Explorers project here, and today we have an excellent topic about game audio. Why it is probably not wise idea to leave the game audio for the guy who has played guitar at the summer camp. Today we have excellent speakers lining up. First we have Ukko-Pekka Itäpelto and Anton Sonin from Audiomimi, a Helsinki-based audio produce company. And then we have Henri Koskinen and Timo Halttunen from ZZ Games. And also input coming from Anni Tolvanen from Next Games. But that's it from me. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, lovely people in Zoom and every one of you who made it live. This is a rare thing nowadays, so little applause to everyone who actually made it here from our end, definitely. You just heard like a little glimpse of one of our companies. It's called Audiomimi. Our company's music reels to get a sense of what we're actually doing. More about us and the company in just a bit. I bet you guys have seen quite many slideshows recently, so we actually have seen them too, and we like to talk, and we have quite many people today in here live and via the stream, so we are going to concentrate on talking today. During the first year of our company, we've noticed quite many things with my company partner over here when it comes to buying, selling, and creating game music and audio. We've also networked with a lot of industry players from AAAs to small mobile studios, indies, investors, and service providers. And we've noticed that it's not a simple task to actually execute a high-quality soundtrack to a game or sound design. So those are the topics what we are discussing here today. And before that, I think it's best that you know something about how we ended up here. So, Anton.
Hey guys, my name is Anton Sonin. I'm a Helsinki-based composer and music producer. I have like 15 years of experience in the music industry, working like with the top list dance music and pop acts around the world, and as well as the branded clients such as Maybelline, Jägermeister, Finnair, and had like a couple of billboard placements in the States and some other stuff what I have done in the past. And I'm a founder at Audiomimi. We're like music production company and we're focusing on game studios. And here is my business partner, Ukko-Pekka Itäpelto. He's the CEO and co-founder of our company. I can give mic to him.
Thank you. My background is in the music and experience industry before this, and I've kind of found myself in between things, so between business and pleasure, between art and tech. So I feel gaming industry was kind of the logical next step to jump to. I also have background in studying computer science before, and then I graduated from cultural management in Metropolia later on. And I've operated projects, various kind of experimental marketing events, music projects for the likes of Accenture, Futuris, many consumer brands like Taco Bell, for example. And of course, I'm also an installation artist and a DJ for like the last 20 years. like went to Burning Man and so on. But that's not what we are going to talk about today. We are actually talking about game audio. So basically, we are storytellers, and we want to share some stories about game audio.
We have Anni Tolvanen from Next Games, audio lead. And yeah, hello.
So I'm Anni, and like you said, I'm the current audio lead at Next Games, which is a mobile game company. We work with big IPs like the Walking Dead franchise, and lately also the Stranger Things franchise in cooperation with Netflix. Before I joined Next Games, I've worked with sound design and some other games companies since like the last 5 years or so. But before that, I worked the last 20 years with music and culture in different roles, musician, composer, educator, creative producer, both domestic in Finland and internationally in very, very different kinds of projects. And one of my main interests to audio and sound design is the sort of the participatory nature of all audio, that it's not just something passive that happens in the background, but it's a incredibly important tool for communication, information sharing. And I think these are features that are often ignored in sound design. So that's something I will be talking about today.
I am Henri Koskinen, founder of Pixtell and CEO, and I have been working 17 years with digital media, from any kind of animations to videos in a few different companies before that. But the main reason why I am here is because last year we started this new game called Legend of Seppo Last Drop, and I'm the founder of that. And this is about the game audio. We are speaking about that project here. And also here is Timo.
Hello, my name is Timo Halttunen, and I'm a musician, freelancer musician, and a composer. And I'm a music director in the Legend of Seppo game. Henri is my close friend. We have known each other the whole our lives, basically. And we are doing this game together.
Yeah, with a big team also.
Yeah, we didn't actually say anything about our company yet. Yeah, let's go with that.
So our company, we are Audiomimi, and we focus on music composition and production for game developers. We are actually relatively new in the gaming industry, but as we said, we have long history in the music, so that's where we came up with this. And we're shipping our first titles like later this year, so hopefully we can share something with you soon. And yeah, I think we should go for our first topic and statement of this panel. So yeah, the bold statement number 1. It's not easy to create suitable audio for games.
Yeah, actually, Anni had this nice slide over there. Can you flip to the next slide? And maybe Anni, you could start.
Yes, so thank you. What you're looking at is a theory that I've been working with since 2016. I am not absolutely not going to go through the whole thing, but I found it as a kind of a provocative starting point for the discussion, that the bold statement was that it is not indeed very easy to find suitable audio in any given context. And I personally started even years ago thinking about that, what is even suitable? Like, how do we measure what kind of audio works in different circumstances when we're talking about these interactive participatory platforms or products? And often in games industry, the thinking, if you don't have a super experienced audio team, for example, the thinking often is that, okay, we have a button, it has to make a sound. Okay, there's a fire, it has to make a fire sound. Something exploding, there needs to be an explosion sound. But we don't necessarily always stop thinking about that. Why does the click button need to make the click sound? And why is it important that the fire makes fire sound? And we tend to think that, okay, well, it's self-obvious, like self-evident why it should be so. But I personally think that it isn't. And that's when I started working on this mixing desk of audio design, where the idea is that you put these measurable parameters that you can apply to any given audio element. Like, what is that audio element's role in the larger context and like the context of the product, the context of the outcome? And that mixing desk measures things like, what is the narrative role of the audio? How is the player expected to respond to that audio? Is there some interaction involved? How does that audio cue represent the environment? And also what kind of mood that audio is supposed to enhance or create in the user. And when the question is, or the bold statement was that, is it easy to find suitable audio? I think yes, it sort of can be, but it only gets easy after you have tools to measure the suitable, what is suitable. And that theory that I've been working with, the idea is that that is like a one toolkit for evaluating what might be suitable. That when you understand what kind of mood you are trying to create, what is the interaction frame for the audio, then you can make more educated decisions on what is suitable audio. But then you also need the professionalism to measure these different factors. And yeah, I did not just kind of come up with all of the shit out of thin air. It's many of the things there are based on psychoacoustics and other fancy, more scientific stuff. But this is not about my theory. I'm just as a small introduction on the question of what is suitable and why it is sometimes difficult to evaluate what is suitable. But now I will open the floor to others to contribute to this statement.
Thank you, Anni. What we've noticed also is that when we talk about music and audio, creating new stuff and in that area for games, many times audio is the last thing that comes. So that's a bit worrying. Of course, like if you're a AAA studio, then that's a bit different. But especially in the mobile game industry, which is huge in Finland, it feels like many times audio comes last. But we have some good examples where audio comes first, and I think Henkka, you know something about this.
Yeah, I think that our project as an indie game, it almost started with audio. Actually, Timo had made the song that we are using in our intro and stuff over 10 years ago, before this game was it was an idea then, but it wasn't in a production yet. So that's how the audio is very important in our game. And we actually designed the whole world first. Actually, our game, it's placed on 1994 Finland, this suburban environment in Jyväskylä. So that's the place where the game happens. So for us, the audio, it's pretty easy to start to implement, because we start how was the world at that stage, 1994, and there comes our audio. So that's how we design it, but also the music. It's all about this, how we design it first, what we need, and then we start to design the audio and the music.
And about the music, I can say that I've been working my own band over 10 years now. I made a trilogy which I'm about to release at some point, and these songs that I have made just goes with the game so well that we are just amazed. That it's like we've been working the same project differently, you know, without knowing each other. And now we've been doing the same thing, and now it's coming together.
And of course, we are making new music and new sounds and audio also, but there are a lot that we already have done before the game was in production.
Yeah, this is also something that, since we come from the music industry originally, it's very different culture if you think about working, and many times music industry is maybe less project management orientated, And on the other hand, music is in the focus when you are in the music industry, obviously. So now we're trying to create these environments, and sometimes it's hard to find talent to actually create these environments. So, for example, everyone who is here in this discussion at the moment has some kind of background in music, but have also gained some expertise in sound design, for example, because in games, it's not only hard to find talent that actually understands the whole product, but also who can create it. So it's a very large pack of qualities that you need from one end. That's something we've been trying to fix. But how do you feel like you've been, for example, Timo, like you're from music industry also originally. Have you find it hard to switch to gaming?
Actually, I think game industry just opens a lot more doors. It's like, how do I say that? It's like the ultimate art form. You can create just like anything. It's unlimited, and it's a bit scary, but at the same time, I like it.
We have also the same that it's like much more. You can do much more with game audio than just one music track. Just the kind of contextuality that is existing gaming is very. It's on a different level. I think Anton has something to say about this.
Yeah, and I think it's more like amplifying the whole experience with the music. Like that's what's really like been interesting for me when I switched like from more traditional music to like game, like audio or game music. That's kind of like how you create immersion for the player or the customer. Who's like there's so much more opportunities just to do with the audio.
I don't know how to do music. I know how to do the visual side, but I know what I can tell Timo what I want and what I need when I hear it. But I can't tell him before what buttons to press. But I know what I want. He knows when I explain, and then he does something. And usually it fits pretty close what I'm thinking, and then we just feed a bit. And this process is nice to be involved with audio like this for me.
That's maybe one of the problems I wanted to bring to the discussion today. That there's so many people with very different backgrounds buying music and getting kind of monitoring the music. So you can have engineer who has never had any experience on creating music or audio, or you can have like a senior audio lead who knows like basically everything about this topic. So maybe this one goes also to Anni. How do you see outsourcing as you work for Next Games, which is a big game house. So how do you see this whole topic?
Outsourcing is marvelous. I think most game companies, in fact, outsource their music. Especially, I do some music at Next, but there's been occasions when I've just told that I'm not a good fit for this project, that we should outsource this for just to get much better results that better fit the IP and the product. I think that the biggest question mark about outsourcing is understanding, again, we go back to the suitable audio, like what fits, what are we even asking a professional to do? Because some of the failure modes of outsourcing is that for example, simply it's badly spec'd, that we order a bunch of music from like a very talented musician who doesn't necessarily have deep understanding on how that audio is implemented. And nobody thinks about that, oh, we should probably talk to this musician in detail, how their music is then used in context. And then again, it means that somebody in-house has to understand that what is, for example, the best way to implement the music or the sound effects for that matter, like what happens after you have the assets, like in what formats you need the assets, how much variety you need with the assets. And then whomever you outsource that stuff from has to have a proper brief. And I think for anybody who is looking into having a job in working with sounds in game industry, and especially someone who is looking into becoming an outsourcing partner for games companies, one of the things that you can do to make it more likely to become a trustworthy good partner is to understand more deeply it means to implement audio to games. So then when like some clueless, a little bit choky way, clueless project lead contacts you about, oh, we need this music yesterday or last week, or even if there's a reasonable buffer, then you can ask smart questions about their needs. You can help them to figure out what they need. And I think that is a super valuable skill to have as a freelancer, not just being able to deliver top-notch products, but also help the client, the company, understand their own needs better.
Very nice, thank you. Unfortunately, we have limited time, so we have to go to the next question. This is something I would really like to talk more about. Maybe we leave it for the Q&A sessions. So we move forward to our next bold statement. Can we get the slide to the screen, please? So this is something Anton actually started to cover a bit already. We said audio is a driver for emotion and immersion. And we have examples from this also. We have 2 videos from Pixtell. And this is from the intro of your new game with 2 different kind of music. And this is all about kind of amplifying the emotion, whatever that emotion might be. You can find out yourselves in a bit. This was number 1. And example number 2. So one video, completely different emotions. Can you tell a bit more, Henri?
Yeah, the first song is made by Timo, and that is our song for the title. And actually, it has very strong emotions that we are trying to get involved to the game. And the other song is from Artlist, from outsourcing. I just pop a song and place it there. It fits there, but it's not what we want to tell as a story. So both might work, but the other one is the one that we want to have.
Yeah, so it's all about the narrative. You kind of amplify the thing that you want to actually tell. So you write it, but then it's also something that you will hear. And this is something we are concentrating to in our work. We want to tell some stories, but many times, as said, audio is the last thing to kind of get glued on top of things. So it means that it's also harder to get deeply involved into the narrative.
Yeah, and I think because with the AAA studio, it's obviously like they think of these topics like from quite beginning, but like with a lot of mobile studios, it's kinda, and many times they think like maybe we can do this with stock audio. Why do I pay like, for example, 5,000 or 6,000 euros for like composition when I can get that for 60 quid or something. And I think that's where kind of it comes, the kind of the quality for the brand and the audio, what like, yeah, adds the emotion and immersion for the product.
I think Anni also had some really nice thoughts about tactile audio design and how it comes to amplifying things in game. Would you like to tell a bit more about this?
Yes. First of all, I want to just put it out there that stock audio can be marvelous, especially when it comes to sound effects. There's going to be gazillion million door creaks or like coin clicks or whatever, like these kind of incredibly generic sounds out there. And not every game needs their own custom creak for the door. And then it goes sort of back to the whole what is suitable. How important is this door? If the door is incredibly important, then yes, do the custom sound effect for it. Put thought into how it should sound like. But if the door is just kind of super irrelevant, small thing, but it still needs to have an audio cue in it, then maybe the stock audio is the right choice. But this goes back to the fact that, okay, what do we even want to communicate with sounds? And especially with mobile games, one of the things that actually create value for the user is that it can make the elements in the game to become alive. And of course, this is same for AAA, but people sort of take it more granted when we are talking about PC or console, and especially AAA. But even with mobile games, is the thing that when you are collecting, a lot of mobile games are about collecting things, building stuff, creating personal value for the things that you do in the game. And the one thing that we know from psychoacoustics and how people evaluate things, the more physical and the more real something feels like, the more personal value it also has. So that means that if we can make an item, be it like, for example, that door or whatever other item, the more physical and tactile it feels to interact with, then the more real it becomes, and thus it has more value to the user. And this is understood in sound design, like outside of digital platforms, very often. I can guarantee you that the people who designed Tesla have put countless of hours into thinking about that. When you open and close the doors of Tesla, how does it sound like? How does it feel like? But also, how does it sound like? Your vacuum cleaner, somebody has thought about what kind of soundscape your vacuum cleaner should create for it to give the right image of the product. Like vacuum cleaners, for example, could be way more silent. It would be possible to make them more silent, but if they're too silent, consumers think they're not effective. And okay, how are vacuum cleaners? How do they relate to mobile games or digital games? It's the whole notion of the sound impacts our image of the quality and the value and the realness of something you're interacting with. And of course, the more high quality and the more real something feels like, then the more value it has for you as a consumer, and thus you are probably willing to pay more money for it, etc. So that is my take on the more tactile or real layers of sound design.
This is actually very interesting because our bold statement number 3 is actually about this value that audio can bring. So that we argue that audio is a good investment because the thing is that it's also one of the cheapest things to actually make happen in a game. And if you can create a lot of immersion with high quality audio and music, I would argue that audio is actually a pretty good investment in many ways. But did you want to say or add something to the number 2 topic, which was the it's not easy to it's audio's driver for emotion and immersion?
Yeah, like from the intro video that we made, actually Timo was making the music at the same time that I was making the video, so we made them side by side and just look at each other's job and compared, and then it was the end result.
It's that easy.
It's that easy. All right. Well, I think we can move on to number 3, which we already started to discuss about. Well, I've read that there is a correlation, but not a proven causality, between people who play mobile games with sound on and they making more purchases and spending more time while playing that game. So I didn't want to put it here because there's not proven causality, but I truly believe that there is one. It's definitely high quality game audio and music is a way to stand out from the crowd, and it's a way to personalize your product. So if you think about great games from like Grand Theft Auto to like basically anything from Nintendo franchise, it's always people remember the audio. Or Angry Birds, like that's one huge thing over there.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a good way to polish your brand. Like if you have like signature song for your game which stands out, I think like Angry Birds is a very good case, or like obviously Mario and stuff from Nintendo. But I think that's a way to monetize your product as well. Like, because I think there was like some remixes released of the Angry Birds tune, and as well with I think what was very interesting what they did with the Death Stranding, that compilation album about like when they used like the mood of the game for like compilation for the songs, which I think they weren't even like in the game, but Major Lazer, Alan Walker, and I think Churches, they participated in that, and I think that was like a super cool thing to do brand-wise, and it's done in like AAA, but I think it can be scaled down on like indie games and like AA projects as well.
If you think about like some random game, what's not maybe visually super cool, but it has a super cool soundtrack. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I like to play that game. so on the other hand, if there's a really cool looking game that has really annoying soundtrack, it can also destroy otherwise very good game. So it needs to be thought very carefully what you put out there, and that's why I think we come back to the briefing. The most important thing alongside production quality is actually being on the same page and understanding what we do when we are making some games.
In our case, when we were designing the world and the audio, because there are many different musics, we together designed what kind of music we want to make, and then Timo started to compose, and not all is coming to the game. I think that there are a lot of process that will go to the trash can also. So how is it in the composing world doing this kind of?
When you're building something from nowhere, you have to start somewhere. So first I just make songs and give them to Henka, and Henka just tells what to do with them. And many times it's like it's not ready yet. You have to choose this and that, and maybe not this, and it's a process. We are getting there. It's not ready for the start. Some songs are, but mostly not. It's going somewhere, and maybe we don't even know where it's going, but we know something.
And Timo, as our lead composer, also has many talented people composing music around him. So he's not the only one who's doing the music, but he now knows the role as a lead composer, what kind of music he can tell to other people what to do and how to do. So we have many talented people doing music and sound for the game at the moment. And that is a nice process to have this mix of people. Everybody has their own talent.
That's one thing about investing to audio, that it's not necessarily easy to find suitable talent, because like if you have a visual artist who has a certain style, he or she can basically create any visual thing in a way or another. But this is a simplification, of course. But with audio, if you need some guy who can play or who can sing like maybe like Mongolian throat singing, it's not something that we necessarily do in the box, but we actually need someone to do that. And that's also one place where we thought that, okay, maybe we could think audio outsourcing more as a service than just art, because many times finding the right talent is just, it takes a lot of time and effort. Anni, do you have something over there? I didn't see you over there.
Yes, I sort of wanted to continue on the previous topic on the kind of iterative nature of creating good audio design. And I think this ties into the whole, is audio a good investment? When is it a good investment? I personally obviously think that it is a good investment, but it also needs to be a smart investment. And what is often gets forgotten, especially on mobile games, is that in basically all other aspects of game design, it is known that approximately like 80% of the work that is being done gets thrown away, and then it's improved and reiterated and reiterated. So the first art assets you put into the game are, everybody knows that these are just the first assets that we put in, and then we will keep on improving them when the design process goes forward. But for audio, strangely enough, what happens that, okay, now we have the almost finished game, now we have to put some audio in, let's just order, like commission some stuff and put it in there, and then that's it. Because, okay, we already spent all of this money for ordering or commissioning this stuff, and now we don't want to spend more money. And that is understandable, but it also, there's this conflict between the quality of all the other assets and elements of the game that have been produced over months and months and gone through several loops of iteration. So it would be a bit naive to think that then we can just kind of nail the audio on one go. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't order outsourced, like outsource audio, just order it from freelancers. But it does mean that, again, make it a smart investment. Think about how you spec it, think about what your needs actually are, and prepare and bake it into the contract that there's room for iteration and there's room for also throwing some of the audio to trash and replacing it with better audio. And I think that the impression of that the audio is not the valuable, like it doesn't make sense to spend that much money on audio, comes from these mistakes in commissioning it in the first place, that it's just expected that we commission it and then we put it in and we call it good. And then, of course, there's very easily this disappointment that, okay, we now spent 10K ordering this audio and we put it in and it wasn't that good in the end. Well, obviously it wasn't, because all of your other content has been gone through 15 development cycles, but audio went through one cycle before it was approved.
Yeah, and that's what I think. It's very important to treat audio as a like part of the like art in general. Like if we just like, if we think how it looks like for like years or months, and then we like try to glue audio on that like in like a couple of weeks, it obviously won't fit as well. For that, I think it's very important to think at the same time how this will look and how this will sound. Like they have to complement each other.
Absolutely. Henka.
Yeah, that's a good example in our project when Timo had the song that was made 10 years ago, and it was like ready. Timo said that it's not ready, but for me it was ready. But I had the like animations that were not ready. The assets were not ready, but I made a video out of Timo's music. So the other way around. And actually one of our mentors, Stefan Lampinen, said that our game is 10 out of 10 points. And this guy has been in the gaming industry for 35 years, and he was the advisor in the Minecraft game. So he knows about games. And he said that your game video is 10 out of 10 and a lot to do with the music of Timo's.
And that's a bit funny because the song really is made more than 10 years ago with Adobe Audition, you know? Yeah, free software with, you know, like shitty guitars and I don't know, it doesn't sound good to me, but hey, some people like it. I don't have a problem with that. Of course, I'm doing it better. It's gonna be a new version of it. But the main point here is that the idea is more important than the technical aspects of the song. If the idea works, then people really don't care how it was made technically. The psychology comes first and then comes the technical issues.
Yeah, and I think that's very good points. Like, if it brings emotion and like it entertains you, then it's good. Like, you can polish something like technically till the end of the world, but like if it entertains and brings the emotion for you, and that's what other thing what I was saying. Like, it obviously can work the other way around. Like, you can get inspired of the song, how this could like look visually. And that's, I think, I'm not sure how much people do that in the game studios, but that could be for like some new studios cool approach to think how like the other way around, not how this looks and how it transfers to audio, but how this audio transfers to visuals.
And that's how we did that.
Yeah, exactly. That's where like kind of
Yeah.
I got the or
And
pointed that.
the visuals don't have to be ready. The feeling is ready, and that's most important.
Yeah, the emotion, I think it's the most important thing, like I think in any product.
Yeah, I saw a documentary about Pixar recently, and they have this one guy who make these kind of temporary compositions. So basically, when there's a draft of something, the producer calls to the composer and says, you know, we need this emotion in 3 hours, and then he goes to the studio and makes up something and comes back, and then they see if it works. So it's like a emotion they are solving, not really like some kind of production problem. So that was very interesting. And then after they've decided which emotions they will amplify or create in certain phases of the movie, they actually make it with another guy who is then the main composer for the film. We still have some time for questions, so come back with the idea if you get that later. Anni, do you have any last words before we go to the questions?
I have millions of words, but I would love to at this point get to if we have some audience questions and see what interests our audience.
Olli asks, there's a lot of talk about audio usually being included too late in the game design process, but have you ever been in a situation where you realized you're designing sound or composing music too early? And I would say yes, we have, because there was a project where the brief wasn't ready, and then we actually made some work, and you know, then we have to redo the work.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what Anni mentioned, like, it's important to understand the client's needs. Obviously, like, sometimes there's a miscommunications in, like, every situation, but, like, yeah, that's important first to understand, like, what we are looking for, and then we start the production process and maybe not, like, doing it other way around. Like, first we do the full production, and then we end up like in the situation where it's not really what we were even looking for in the first place.
There's one issue that we haven't even discussed at all in game audio that we are heavily involved is voice acting. We have voice actors, many of those, they are professionals, and that is also very important part in our game because there is a lot of talk in our game. So we are designing how they talk, how they sound like, what are their ambitions in their speech, and that's a process that is also huge, and we are doing it all the time, me and Timo mostly, and then the voice actors.
Yeah, of course, we could go deeper and deeper into audio development, for example. So there's a lot of things to cover. And I think Anni had something over there.
Well, I could add to the notion of adding sounds or like thinking, going through the process of creating sounds too early. I personally have an experience in my my first big game industry job where I was incredibly eager to start to work with them and work with the project. So I had started in my head drafting this composition before I even had like properly seen the product. Like obviously had seen glimpses, but I hadn't really interacted properly with the product. And I was so in love with my own initial idea of like, this is the music I want to work with, that then I spent like 2 or 3 weeks when I started there stubbornly working on that theme, which then I eventually had to admit to myself that no, this music does not work out, and throw all of that work out and start from fresh. And for me, it was a valuable lesson of this sort of thing that it's not so much about what is too early, or like we can define what is too late, right? When stuff gets too rushed and implemented badly, that is too late. I don't think there's necessarily too early time-wise, but there is too early in the larger scope of designing the product. Even like either on a personal level, like what happened to me, I didn't have deep enough understanding of the design before I already started making drafts in my head, or on a kind of production scale, as in asking the audio team to start designing music or designing audio for a project that is not far enough for the musicians or the sound artists to really start thinking about that, okay, what is the audio brand for this product? I think there were like some answers, like questions about software choices in the chat. I could really quickly answer to the, there are like 2 questions there. One about like what programs are used for creating, especially like smaller sound assets. And the other one is how important it is to know how to use middleware to work in the gaming industry. I could, for my part, say that I do all my work in Logic Pro, because again, like I've come from the music world, I know that the industry standard for working with sound effects specifically often is Reaper, which is otherwise a very recommendable digital audio workstation. It's relatively cheap and it can do a lot of stuff. So if you don't have a kind of a professional digital audio workstation yet, maybe look into Reaper. You can also do music with Reaper, but I should learn Reaper properly. One of these days I will do it. So, and for the middleware question, I don't personally use any middleware with any fluency because, for example, in Next Games, we have our own audio SDK, so this toolkit that we use for implementing audio, which I have helped to specify and define. So I haven't needed it. I know that if I would then want to apply to work with, for example, Remedy or some other AAA company, then I would definitely need to get, like, for example, VVICE certification in order to do so. But I do think that any middleware or any software whatsoever, like that is substance skills. That is something one can always learn. It will help you, like it is needed for applying specific jobs, but being the best VVICE wizard in the universe won't help you if your skills in creating audio assets or working with audio are not that good. So I would say that the actual audio design part comes first, and improving those skills comes first. And then you can learn the software side of things as you move along, as you get more experienced.
Yeah, and something with them, like I get a lot of questions in general about like what plugins or software do I use, and I think the most important is to kind of understand aesthetics and have a good ear for stuff, because like the plugins and the software, it's just the tools how to get your idea down on the paper or like game or like audio soundtrack. Like the most important, like as I think somebody mentioned earlier, is the idea is the first what needs to be like had, and then the software is just a way to execute. So whatever works for you is like it's the best choice. So yeah.
Yeah. We have another question. Do you guys have tips for making the whole production process less chaotic, like concept documentation at the pre-production stage, some other documents when going further, some workflow life hacks, etc.? Well, I can start because, well, I come from the marketing world, also from the marketing world, and we always started with some kind of brand guideline or brand identity, and started learning that, and then what's the mission, vision, strategy of the company, or at least marketing strategy of the company, and so I would really love to see these same elements, but in gaming world, in that sense that if you think a game is a brand, and audio could be the stamp, kind of the top of mind thing for that brand, then we should be part in creating that brand. But to be able to do that, we really need to have a very good kind of brand book or guideline. Yeah. So that's definitely the start. Then of course, there's always fires in the production, and what I mean is that things get delayed, or some things need to be done yesterday suddenly, or this kind of thing. So kind of, if you have if there's some changes, of course we need some schedule, but if there's some changes coming up, or there might be coming up, just let us know. It will make everything smoother. So maybe that's the first two things I come up with. Anton, do you wanna?
Yeah, learn to use a good project management software.
I was going to say that learning to put just your own process in a Google sheet or Excel sheet is sort of mandatory, and documenting what you have done and what you are doing. If it's not on a Google sheet, then does it even exist? I don't know.
Do you have some movies that have inspired us to create music?
My personal hero in music is Howard Shore when he made the Lord of the Rings. I think he's the most influential people for me. And also, if you think about game industry, then one guy would be Nobuo Uematsu from the Final Fantasy game series. Probably those two guys are my heroes.
And you can hear them in our game somewhere in the background. That influence.
I think for me, the Blade Runner was like huge inspiration. How movies affected my like aesthetics in music. So that's the first one. Yeah, the second one, it was very good as well with the Hans Zimmer, and I don't remember who was the other guy on it, but I really liked the CS80 synth, how it was used like in the first one, and that was like, I think for me, and like in the music I listened like at home, like AIM-83 is like very same vibe, like kind of, yeah, a lot of analog synths, and that's what I really like enjoy.
We have time for one more question, really quick answers. When it comes down to outsourcing, can you give any hints where gaming companies might look for certain types of music or even voice actors? And this is excluding streaming services like Spotify.
It was called Sound Better. It's the new startup owned by Spotify. And that's kind of place to, if you're like voiceover, I'm not sure are they doing that much voiceovers, but if you're like musician, you play very well violin and you can sell your talent there. And that might be something like where like people from the game studios might look for if they really need something really specific for their project, then I think that's something you should look into.
I am going to give a very annoying answer, but it's unfortunately truthful. Networking, simply put, as in I would go as far as to claim that most games companies don't go anywhere, like in any, I will go to this site and try to look for the best possible match. Like, of course, people will randomly find artists through, as in like, no, I found this artist from SoundCloud and they had exactly the kind of style of stuff that we want to our product, and then you might get a call. But that is a matter of luck and chance. And for voice acting specifically, there are the studios I know in Helsinki who offer voice actor and voiceover services. So being on their lists, then the companies might contact that studio and ask, okay, we need voice talent for this and that. And then they will work together with the studio to go through the roster of that studio and figure out if somebody in that roster is a good match for what they're trying to do. But when it comes to just companies finding you, having contacts within game companies whom you have worked with, maybe on some freelance project or some indie project. Maybe you go to game jams and do game jam projects. Maybe you get some visibility for like some indie thing you've done. So anything that people that you know personally, and having people personally forcing people play your small demo indie game and being like, I made the sounds for this thing, and then somebody may remember you when they need somebody to do sounds. But this is the annoying but unfortunately truthful answer. It's very unlikely that somebody will find your work from like a big stock asset pool. It's much more likely to get that gig through personal connections.
Unfortunately, stop to this annoying truth. This time, 1 hour is full. I want to thank everybody, all the panelists over here, and Anni over the stream. It was nice to be here in Lahti. I haven't been here a while, even in a train in a good while. So it's a big thing. Thank you for everybody who watched the stream over Zoom, and of course over here. So we'll just say goodbye to everyone, and see you soon.